Today we're going to make a terrarium. A terrarium has its own mini climate. The container has just a small opening or sometimes even a lid to completely enclose the container. That makes a terrarium like a greenhouse. Sunlight enters through the glass and warms the air, soil, and plants the same way that sunlight coming through the atmosphere warms the Earth's surface. The glass holds in some of the warmth just as the atmosphere does. A terrarium is like an aquarium, but for plants instead of fish. It is made in just about any glass container. It is planted to look like a miniature garden or forest, enclosed in its own little world. You can easily make a beautiful terrarium yourself. First, you want all the plants to thrive in the same kind of environment. For example, you could plant all succulents, including cactus, because they need very little water. Or you could plant all ferns because they like it moist. You could put moss with the ferns because moss likes it moist too. If you put a fern with a cactus, or one or the other might not do well. The fern, if it gets too dry, the cactus, if it gets too wet. For our terrarium that we are going to make, which will be a desert terrarium, we're going to need a clear glass container. For example, an aquarium of any size, a fish bowl, a cookie jar, a pickle jar, a vase, any of those, a shallow dish with a glass bowl turned upside down on it. We could use a soda, 2-3 liter soda bottle. We will need some rocks, some pebbles to go on the bottom. For our desert terrarium, we're going to be using sand and some potting soil. Make sure your potting soil is sterilized. We're going to also use various plants of different shapes and sizes. Here we have 2 cacti, and here we're going to use 2 succulents. We are going to start with a layer of rocks about 1 inch thick at the bottom of our container. And these rocks are going to help with the drainage. So we want about a 1/2 inch. I'm going to take my ruler and we're going to measure, and that is about a 1/2 inch according to my ruler. You're going to take your hand and just level those out to where they're even. Next, we're going to add about 1/2 inch of sand. And you can use your hands or a measuring container. Just going to put a little bit in and even it out with my hands and try to measure about 1/2 inch. We've got about a 1/2 inch of sand in our container. We're going to fill the container up to about half full with our potting soil. And you're going to even it out. In a smaller container, you might make a little mountain in the middle and then press it out evenly on the sides. Then we are going to just use our finger and make our little holes inside of our terrarium where we want. First I'm going to put my cacti in, my cactus. And on the cactus you want to make sure, on all plants actually, that you tease the roots at the bottom so that the roots are loose enough to where they can spread out. You're going to set your cactus in. a succulent, which loves dry air. I'm going to do the same thing, and just going to tear the roots up at the bottom so that they are a little bit looser. I've got my second hole, and I'm going to place my succulent in my second hole. Then I've got my next succulent, which this is actually called a donkey tail burrito. And I'm going to tear the roots apart at the bottom, get rid of some of this extra soil, and put my second succulent in and cover it with dirt. Good. Okay. You want to make sure you pat down your soil evenly so that your roots don't get uprooted easily. And you can add decorative pebbles, you can add pine cones, whatever to make your terrarium look like a little garden in its own little world. Now you're going to water the plants. Now, seeing that this is a desert terrarium, we probably won't want this much water because too much water will come out. So you could also use a straw so that you can direct the water exactly where you want it to be, and so that you don't get too much water in your desert terrarium. And you want to leave this open and not closed. So there's your desert terrarium. You can also put little rocks in to make a little rock river, different types of rocks. A terrarium is a very easy class project because it requires very little maintenance.
Oh, hey Kathleen, I really like your terrarium.
Thank you.
I think my class would really like it. But what if I'm not able to get a glass container? Is there something else I can do instead?
I think that we can use maybe 2 or 3 liter soda bottles or an old milk jug, a plastic milk jug.
Ah, that sounds great. I bet we've got some stuff here in our kitchen. Let's go look.
Okay. Here. All right. Hey, here's a milk container we could recycle. An old spaghetti jar, we could use that. A Gatorade empty container. Hey, and this Sprite container, 2 liter bottle, we could just pour this out and use soapy water, hot soapy water, clean it out and cut it, and we could use it for our terrarium.
That's great, Kathleen. I really like the part that we're going to do recycling things to make our terrarium.
Good for the environment.
You can tie literature in with making your terrariums. For our desert terrarium, I would use this book, Desert Giant. In this book, it shows simple, easy to read text and appealing drawings to document the life cycle of the amazing cactus tree and the creatures it helps to support.